Hello.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Were you the one who said you had the new kid smell?
Yeah, but
I like that.
no one
I
quite
use that.
recognizes my name yet.
Right.
And so like, I'm either getting blocked in people's inboxes or there's like they don't even look at what I'm
Right.
sending.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
a little bit of new kid smell on me.
Oh,
Um,
right.
okay, I wanted to ask you real quick. I
Yeah.
am not at my house, so is my audio okay? Can you hear a lot of stuff?
Your audio is fine. You can hear that you're somewhere, but in in our world, it sounds like you're at a co-working space or a cafe, and which
There we go.
that's fine.
Okay,
I
well,
mean, I'm assuming you'll turn your audio on to speak, and then you will mute.
exactly what I will
Yeah.
do.
Okay.
Um,
Zero issue.
okay, so I've just passed over host controls to you,
Thank you.
so
That
that
was my
you
next
can
question.
do all the things.
Yep.
I should still be able to monitor the waiting room, so you don't
Oh,
need to
cool.
worry about that.
Thank you.
So I'll let people in as they pop in and out. Um, I'll kick things off just with a brief intro, do it real quick, and then hand it over to you.
Yep.
While you're getting, is there anything that you would like me to help with in terms of like, do you want a breakout room? Do you want me to
Hmm.
send out polls or even ask certain questions in the chat? I mean, I may
Hmm.
ask things that come up just for myself, but
Yeah, yeah,
any
yeah.
areas where you're like, yeah, ping
Okay.
that and get them talking.
Great question. My intent is to make this very interactive. So if you could monitor the chat, that would be great. And don't hesitate to take yourself off mute and say, hey, I think we have a question about this. Sometimes I can get in a role and it's hard for me to keep an eye on the chat. So that would be great. I did toy with the idea of breakout rooms, but I don't want to mess with that right now unless something comes up. The one thing
Mm-hmm.
that I do want to do is have people share their pitch decks or what they have if that's something that they'd like to do. So I have set aside over like 20 minutes for interactive work on that. But since I'm a host, I can handle that.
Okay. And as I'm doing this, it may be something in my settings that I changed, but can you, since you are now the host, are you able to make me a co-host? I
Yeah.
thought I'd stay co-host. Okay. Yeah, if you
Yes.
would do
Let me
that.
see. Zoom's always changing its. Yep, here it is. Make co-host.
Okay. Cool.
How's that?
Perfect. Yeah, now I can see the waiting room again.
Great.
Okay, so I'll help monitor the chat. I
Okay.
will come off mute and let you know if there's some
Yeah,
conversation happening that we want to slow down
great.
for. And then otherwise, I think we're good. Well, you can probably see it. We've got 3 people in the chat. And then were you able to access the registration information that I linked to you in
I didn't
Teams?
have time to do that,
Okay, and
but
sorry I didn't get that to you
oh, it's fine.
yesterday.
It's fine. It's fine. I felt an obligation to learn a little bit more about procurement. I am going to be very open with where my experience does lie and where it does not lie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a concern about that because fundamentally communication, but pitching is pretty universal. And so I will rely on the people that are there to give me their specific concerns and to guide me. So that should be fine. That's what I was originally looking for. Is like procurement. Is there
Yeah,
anything that
and
you would? Yeah, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, in looking at the registration, it's looking like a lot of product based.
Yeah,
There may be a few service based in here. Just,
great,
yeah, like there's an energy and chemical utilities.
cool.
But yeah, a lot of retail product based. Not very many people answer the question about number of employees. But yeah, so we've got someone with, 100 to 101 to 250 employees, and then a couple other people under 100 employees, or max 100.
Okay. All members of the military connected community?
You know, honestly, we didn't ask that question
Oh,
in the registration. So
yeah, I didn't mean to.
that may be.
Yeah.
I'll ask that maybe starting off, or if you want to ask that, and just that may help. When we kick things off, I'll ask them to like go ahead and start getting in the chat. And where are you from?
Yes, great.
Product or service based.
Great.
And then may also so ask them, hey, what's your connection, if anything, to the military community? And then we can kind of get a sense for that.
Sure.
What were you
No, just trying to learn more. when you're a communications guy, stakes are high for knowing who your audience is and all that. So I just want to make sure that I know who I'm talking to, and
as best you can, right?
Right. And at the same time, I have a whiff of the new kids smell as well, getting to know IVMF's programs, who participates in them, and just getting to know the community. So.
Well, we're in that boat together.
Yeah. And I'm glad we're getting to know each other more, and want to do anything I can to help. This has been great, so thank you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, you have some of the same questions when you toss things over to me in Teams. I'm like,
yeah, right, yeah.
Here's what I think I know, but okay. I'll go ahead if you feel good.
Sure.
I'll go ahead and start letting folks into the room, and I'll press record. But later on, anything that we're just chatting before I start introducing, we'll edit that out. So no worries.
Yep. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So we've got a few people that are starting to pop in just a few minutes early. So just hang out, but feel free to turn your videos on, come off mute and chat. That's going to be a critical part of this workshop today. We want it to be interactive. So don't be afraid to turn your cameras on, even if you're still having breakfast or sipping coffee or whatever you're doing. We want to see your faces today. But hang tight and we'll get started here soon.
I wanted to say good morning to everyone as well, and add, if you want to drop in the chat a little bit about yourself, it would really help me make this meaningful for you. Specifically, you can get a jump on all the latecomers by sharing some of what you're looking for help with. What are some challenges that you have with pitching, presenting, communicating? I want to make this as relevant as possible. So if you could populate the chat with that, that would be helpful. And a good morning to you, Jennifer Cummins. She gets a good morning because she dropped it in the chat. So I'm trying to prompt interactivity.
If you interact in the chat, we will interact back.
That's right. That's how it works. Give, get.
Gregory.
Great morning to you, Gregory.
Good morning. I'm curious also where everyone is coming from. Where are you located across the country, or maybe abroad? I don't know. Where's everyone at this morning?
Huntsville, Kansas City, Missouri. Not Kansas City, right? I'm from Minneapolis.
Very different.
Very different. I learned that.
Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, North Kansas City, Missouri.
Is that the little piece over the river or something?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yep, just over the river. All three independent cities.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Good times.
We all cheer for the Chiefs, though.
I am in Minneapolis, which is referred to as part of the Twin Cities.
So you get it.
I kind of get it. Kind of get it. Northern
we got
Virginia.
in Dallas.
Video marketing. Very cool.
All right. Well, it is 10 o'clock. So to make use of all the time we have scheduled today, let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right. So good morning, everyone. I'm Alexis. I'm a program manager here at IVMF. And today we have a workshop on pitch readiness. This is part of the procurement readiness series that IVMF is hosting virtually. All these videos and workshops that you're participating in, as I say that, let me press record.
Ooh, good catch.
It looks like I am recording. We're good. So all of these videos, we are going to be posting them up into a online resource library, along with some other great videos we're producing for you guys, and other resources we can scrounge up to support you all on your road to procurement readiness. So today we are thrilled to have Chris Carlson, who's going to lead today's session on pitch readiness. Chris has over 20 years of experience as a pitch coach, helping entrepreneurs fine-tune their pitches for investors, partners, new business opportunities. He's also an immigration attorney and founder of 2 different communication companies, Native Pros and The Speaker Beaker, both dedicated to improving communication and presentation skills. And on top of that, Chris is a program coordinator with the Bunker Labs here at IVMF, where he continues to support veteran entrepreneurs in their business journeys. So all that to say, we so much appreciate your time and your skills and expertise bringing those to us today, Chris. And without further ado, I'll hand it over to you to get us started.
Thanks, Alexis. And thank you, everybody. It's really great to be here. And I want to give you a very brief overview of today. And then I'm going to be asking each of you to please, in the chat, give me, just like Gregory did, what you're looking for, what challenges you have. I want to make this relevant, as relevant as possible. I do this quite a bit. I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it. And it all begins and ends with you. So please don't be shy and drop it in the chat, and we'll make it super hyper relevant. Here's my proposed agenda. And you should be able to see that I want a majority of this to be working with you. I've set aside 25 minutes for Q&A, and that's an active, interactive portion that I am happy to listen to the introduction of your pitch, look at your pitch deck, whatever it is. But I'm going to start off by going through just some general philosophy about the role of pitching and the purpose of a pitch. And then I'm going to go through what I believe is an effective pitch structure. There are many different ways and schools of thought, but and I'll try to be very open with where I'm coming from, and I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. Delivery, how to come across genuine and authentically, how to connect with your audience as best as you can, how to overcome things like nerves, how to really connect. And connection's a big theme, as you'll see. Handling questions, that's always something that I work with my clients on. And then how to practice, how to prepare. There are some best tips for that. And then there's that interactive Q&A, and then some next steps. Okay? So as I wrap that up, I am going to once again ask you to drop in the chat whatever particular challenges you have. We've got sales opportunities from John and getting ready for investors in GovCon. So that's fantastic. And and there's other people. Crack the code on how to win proposals. Takes me way too long to put together a proposal for government contracts, and I feel like there's a better way. There probably is. I will be as I will try to be as much help as possible. And let me explain a little bit about my background and expertise and what I am very confident adding value to and what I'm going to do my best at. So my background is in general communications, human interaction, where two people need to communicate usually a complex idea in a challenging environment to get a specific result, okay? And a lot of that comes from my work as a professional actor. Actors spend an enormous amount of time preparing a message so that it resonates and connects with its audience. And so our audiences need that story, the message and the emotion, or the information and the meaning. And I've come to understand through my career as an attorney, as a coach, that that's fairly universal, not just constrained to the theater. It's something that an entrepreneur, when they walk into a meeting to get investors, when they walk into a prospect for a sale, a new employee, even a meeting, we're constantly evaluating the information that we're receiving and the person that's delivering it. And we're trying to figure out, is this going to make my life easier or is it going to make my life harder? And as an audience member, as a recipient of that information, we're going to evaluate our effort based on that. So I have focused my work on the act of making that audience's life better. How can we, as presenters, as salespeople, as pitchers, how can we help our audience? Because, and this is very key, and it's a fundamental assumption of my work, and I realize that it's so fundamental, sometimes I forget that other people don't share it. A pitch or any communication is not about the person speaking. It is about the audience. The audience is the hero. They're the most important, full stop. If they weren't the most important, why are you there? Sometimes you have to be there and they're not the most important and someone told you to do something and you're doing it. But the audience, if they're showing up, if they're giving their time and attention, they are the most important, and you need to, everything you say and do needs to proceed from that assumption. Everything. And far too often we, and I include myself in this, get caught in a trap of, well, I have something really exciting to share. So me, I. Well, that's not going to usually connect with an audience as effectively as you ask them about themselves, as you demonstrate that I'm here to help you, as you show them that I can help you get to your goal. I can help you get away from pain. All right. So I'm going to lay out some fundamental philosophy, and then I'm going to give you some strategies that are pretty proven. And most importantly, I'm going to give you some tactics that work. All right. So basically the goals, and then there's the strategies of how to get the goals, and then there's the tactics, right? Okay. So first and foremost, a pitch is a conversation, and its goal should be to lead to a relationship. Okay. So already there's a nuance here. A pitch, the goal of a pitch is not to get a sale, because I don't think it's likely that they're going to actually give you money in that meeting, right? The more that you're able to develop a relationship and then proceed to the next step, that's what's most important. And even more so, let's say that the next step isn't realistic for that person at that time, you still want that relationship. So what you're trying to do is connect with them as a human being, as somebody who's there to help them with a particular value proposition that may or may not be appropriate for that time. So the goal, I feel, is to develop a relationship that extends beyond that conversation, beyond that meeting. Second, the value of that relationship is defined by action. Now, let me make that clear. Action is someone buying something, someone taking another meeting, someone even remembering you. That's an action. Because if you do not have that kind of action, that kind of result, then it's not going to be nearly as valuable. Somebody can really enjoy your presentation and then completely forget about it, or they can do nothing, or they really like it, but they never act on it. Therefore, it doesn't have as much value. And so I will constantly be referring to that action because that depends not just on the information. You might not have the best price. You might have the best price. You might not have the best price. You might have the best product, not the best product. But what's important is that they understand and get that and are motivated to act. An example of this, I don't know if anybody else is old enough to remember, there used to be these commercials that Sarah McLachlan's song was playing, and the dogs, you need to save the dogs, right? And they're like, this dog's going to die unless you call and give money. And I watch those commercials and I'm like, I'm near tears myself. But do I ever call? I confess, no, I didn't. And so the commercials are effective, but they didn't get me to give the money. So they're not as effective as they could be, right? And there are other examples of that. So your goal as an entrepreneur is to get action. So enough said about that. So what I'd like to do now is let me just review. Oh, good. I'm glad. My agenda was what you were looking for. Okay. Sales opportunities. Okay. So I'm going to go through what I believe. Well, let me back up a little bit. I was saying that my focus as an attorney, as a practicing actor, is on interpersonal communications and specifically the tactics, how we can do that. Mainly nerves, memorizing content, understanding an audience. My attorney brain is to take the complex and try to make it simple. You might not associate lawyers with simplicity, but we do try to take the complex and make it actionable. I will be open and let you know, I'm not a procurement expert. I'm not a sales expert. I'm not even a fundraising expert. However, every single one of those can benefit from what I'm talking about today. I can't guarantee success, but I certainly can help you prevent failure. Think of it this way. If you're playing tennis, I took tennis lessons as a kid. I love it. And if you don't get the ball over the net, you can't win. I've done the math. It's impossible to win. You might be able to tie if the other person is as inept as you are. My point is, once the ball's over the net, you could win, you might lose, but at least you're playing the game. There are far too many opportunities in communication where people shoot themselves in the foot or they hit the ball into the net. And everything that I'm talking about, just going back to the first point that I raised, the audience is the hero. The audience is the most important. That will allow you to avoid many pitfalls. I listen to so many pitches, so many speeches that begin with, hello, me, I got this. And as an audience member, I may like them. I may be interested in what they're saying, but I would be much more invested if they were to let me know that they understand where I'm coming from. And we're going to come to that in a little bit. So I want to be clear. My focus is on effective interpersonal communication. Writing, somebody here wants to do better written proposals. Good luck. I'll try to help you as best I can. But once you have to present the proposal, that's where my expertise really can lend some value. I consider myself to be a peer with you. We go out into the world and we try to communicate effectively under adverse circumstances, and we try to do the best we can. I'm here to share some tips that have worked for me. I'm not saying it's the only way, but I think that the attention and effort put into where I'm directing it will certainly help you get sales, get those relationships going. Okay, so I'm going to go through what I believe is a very effective opening. A pitch, so there are different ways to structure a pitch. Let me just stop right here. This is called pitch readiness. So I'm talking about pitches. Some of you want sales and some of you want some other things. So that's good. That's good. I will continue to talk about a pitch, but I'm happy to adapt it to someone's specific needs or what they have. So please let me know. So a pitch, the most important part of any communication, but specifically a pitch, the most important part is the opening. In the opening seconds, you have more attention than you will have the entire pitch. And so make the best use of those opening seconds. And I listen to many, many presentations and pitches, and there are missed opportunities / balls hitting into the nets, unforced errors. And so I'm going to go through ways to avoid those unforced errors. Now, you don't have to do this exactly like I'm laying it out, but I am going to lay it out in a way that is the most efficient and effective, in my opinion, because everything that I'm going to go through is based off of audiences' reactions, needs, and their what's going through their head. All right. And I've already touched on the first one, and that is agreement. If you let the audience know right away that you understand them, that you are talking with them, that you're trying to get them away from pain or towards something that they like, they're going to listen to you more closely and exercise more effort. There's a phenomenon in science. If you flash a human face in front of somebody, if you see a human face, within milliseconds, you're deciding two things. Do I like this person? Are they for or against me? Second, can they do anything about it? And so when you're interacting with somebody, what you want to do right away is let them know, I am here for you. Because that avoids the ball in the net problem, which is, who's this person? And you're trying to figure it out. One of the other things that I'll talk a lot about, I'm a huge fan of Story Brand and Donald Miller and Business Made Simple. I think he's really cracked the code on how to make artistic techniques accessible. And he knows that audiences, humans, are lazy. We're always reluctant to exercise effort. And as you go into a meeting or a presentation or a pitch, that person that's listening to you, they are going to be much more motivated to listen to you if you can make it easy for them, if you can let them know exactly why you're there and how you're going to help them. And to begin with, and that's the first thing, and I'll just drop these into the chat sort of as a breadcrumb trail. Agreement. Agree with the audience. Establish some sort of agreement when the purpose is to get their heads nodding. So if there's a way, and you don't have to do it with this sentence, but it's easy to explain, I think we can all agree that getting ready for a pitch is difficult and challenging. Getting ready for a presentation can be a pain, and it seems like there's a better way to do it. Getting ready for sales opportunities can be frustrating. So just getting people to say, oh yeah, you know what I'm talking about. That's an easy way to begin. And there's different ways to do this. You can do it implicitly. You can say, don't meetings stink, and like, oh yeah, they do. You demonstrate that you have to know that you agree with the audience. Oh, thank you. Alexis is supplementing that. And I think that, for example, here's something that I invented. Procurement teams, as a procurement specialist or procurement buyer, and I apologize in advance, I do have a background in improv, and so I try to make things up, and sometimes they're the wrong words, and so forgive me in advance if I say the wrong thing. I got in trouble the other day by saying the wrong thing, and so I'll do my best. But so as a procurement dude, as a procurement person, it's probably tough finding reliable suppliers who meet deadlines and comply with standards. I mean, that's got to be a headache for you. And getting people to go, yeah, it is. Again, at the beginning, I said conversation. You want to have a conversation with somebody. So once you get their heads nodding, just in the first sentence, the next thing to do is to entice them with something that I call the future state. You could call it any number of things. The future state is, wouldn't it be great if you had a supplier who consistently delivered on time, ensured full compliance, and streamlined operations? Now, let me back up. For purposes of example, I'm saying these things that sound a little clunky, like people don't really talk like this, but hopefully you should understand. It's like, I'm sure it's tough to get people who deliver on time, right? Yeah. I mean, I bet you're looking for somebody who deliver on time and maybe even early at times. Just getting them to buy into this ideal future state, right? And you salespeople out there know all kinds of fancy ways to do this, but that is one way to ground them, with the agreement and then the future state. And then in the third sentence, if you were to do this sentence by sentence, which you don't have to, there could be a little bit more time. But again, the opening seconds of a pitch are the most important. What you want to do is you want to say your unique value proposition. You want to spit that out right away. The third thing should be your one sentence summary, your one sentence elevator pitch. If you don't have one, work on it, because spoiler alert, your audience is writing one for you. If you don't tell them who you are and exactly what it is that you do, they're going to say, "Oh yeah, that's the Thai food guy with the sauces, with the spicy sauces." And if that's what you want them to say, great. But why not say it specifically? So your unique value proposition should come right after, and it should be, our solutions eliminate, we provide procurement ready, compliant, efficient services. We're here for you because we're the best, whatever it is. And right away, in the first couple of sentences, you've told the person that you're talking to that you're on their side, you're going to make their life easier, and you're going to tell them exactly how you're going to do that. Okay? The next thing that I always recommend is to tell them exactly unique value proposition. Yeah. So I always, sorry, I'm guilty of using acronyms as much as a lot of the people in the military community. So unique value proposition, what makes you special? And we can talk more about that. Then I think it's always important to tell them the agenda. In other words, what is it that they have to do to get what you just promised? How long are you going to talk? What are you going to talk about, so that they can prepare themselves? Because you could say, hey, I bet you have a problem with people delivering on time, and wouldn't it be great if people did deliver on time? And we specialize in delivering on time. So over the next 4 hours, I'm going to tell you, and then they're like, what? No. But if you say something like, over the next, I know we have a half an hour here. I thought I'd set aside 15 minutes to talk and then for questions. Does that sound good to you? Getting buy-in from them. Again, we're developing a relationship, and we're telling what you could call a meta-narrative, that you are a good person and capable, and you're going to make their life easier. So that's the story. And then there's the actual things that you say, which is that you can deliver something for them. So that framework, agreement, future state, core thesis, or unique value proposition, and agenda, or what they have to give, that will set you up for success. You don't necessarily have to do it precisely like that, but it's going to certainly put you further ahead and avoid unforced errors. So from that, the rest of it is essentially giving more detail to that opening value proposition. I spend 80% of my work on any presentation on the opening. It's the most important, and if you do it right, the rest is kind of gravy. Because then, and I talk to people all the time, the beginning was really hard, but once I got going, I felt really good. If you can nail your opening, be very comfortable and confident, and we're going to go to delivery and slide design tips in a little bit, you're going to present the best version of yourself. You're going to present the clearest, easiest to understand idea that you can. All right? So the rest of it, I'm not saying it's easy, but at that point, it flows from what you've done in the opening. Okay? So we can go back to the core content if you'd like to, but I'd like to jump ahead to slide design tips. PowerPoint, the bane of our existence. So I don't know how much everyone is relying on decks, but I do have a few choice words to say. First of all, I'm not a graphic designer. I am a consumer of PowerPoint like you are. And I will warn you that it is a powerful tool that is often not used for good. In the sense, it's easier to sit down in front of a PowerPoint deck and throw some pretty colors and some crazy fonts without really structuring what it is that you want to say. So I just want to go through some core tips By the way, I should have said this at the beginning. I intend to follow up with every single person here and supply them with notes from what I said today and other resources, as well as I'm going to invite all of you to share any decks you have or pitches. I will take a look at them and give you my feedback. I know, it's a lot, but I'll do it. Seriously, though, it's the least that I can do for the people who have shown up today. So please remember that. So slide design. Here's a couple things. Number one idea per slide. Okay. Stop trying to cram too many things into a slide. An additional slide is very, very cheap. Oh, wait a minute, it's free. The more information you cram onto a slide, the more work you are making your audience exercise, and they do not like that. If I have to look at a slide and there's 50 different things on it, you should have 50 different slides. Then we have another problem. But you need to have one idea per slide so that it can be focused and clear and easy for them to understand. Number two, the title should summarize the slide. If you don't know the point of the slide, you got a problem. So you need to know the main idea of this slide is, sorry, I'm typing. You should say exactly what you want people to take away in that headline at the top. Resist the temptation to say things like the team or differentiator, or so instead of saying the team, tell us what you want to know about the team. An experienced team with decades of service, or I said the team and I said something else. I can't remember, but tell them what you want them to know right at the top. Make it easy for them. Slides support speakers, not the other way around. Far too often, you get people throwing up a deck and it's sort of like they're making it do the work. Your slides have to support you. Now, this is if you're presenting. There is another use for a slide deck that's a send before or a leave behind. Those are very different. Those follow a couple different rules. They still do follow the two that I've put out. There should be one idea per slide, and there should be the title at the top. But a couple of these others are a little different if it's not a presentation deck, is what we call. Point number three, less is more. Less words. So there's I did some math. Sound like a math guy. The tendency is to put a lot of words. Now, this is different if it's a leave behind or it's send ahead or leave behind. But if it's a presentation, we read at about 400 to 500 words per minute. We can speak, at 200 to 300 words. So if you put words up on a slide, people are going to outpace you, and they're going to get more information from the slide than you could ever give them. And they're going to be annoyed that they're reading and you're talking. So keep the words to a minimum. It takes about, according to those 400 to 500 words per minute reading rate, 1/10 of a second per word. So if you put 30 to 40 words on a slide, all of a sudden your audience is reading while you're talking, and there's time that's lost. And so you should keep it to very, very high level words or phrases. All right. And then next, I think that there should be 3 to 5 supporting points. Okay. Not 8, not 15. I mean, they're only going to remember a few things. So you have to be very, very careful not to throw everything in. And that's another one right there. And then last is that the graphics need to be clear and clean and simple and support. Graphics clean. I'm just going to write that. It's not the best. Probably could rework that. We'll workshop it later. So those are some general principles from slides. You'll basically improve them 90% if you were to do exactly what I just listed there. And this whole idea of one idea per slide and putting the point of the slide in the title, that is huge. And it is so clear and so easy. Okay. So yeah, animations, you want to make it super simple. No fancy. I don't see them as much anymore. People used to do the wipes and it's just distracting and I don't think it really adds much at all. All right. So I do want to speak a little bit to delivery tips and also handling questions and some practice techniques. It's bottom of the hour. I'm anticipating turning it over to you to have someone offer a deck or an opening and we could work on it together. If you don't have that, I can keep talking and I'm happy to do that. So please let me know in the chat if you would like to volunteer. I'm not quite comfortable with voluntolding anybody. I've always had a hard time conjugating that. Voluntel? Anyway, but if you don't want to volunteer your some work here, I'm happy to take a look at it later, but that's what I would like. Oh, someone has a pitch deck. Great. How do you say your name? No, no. Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Excellent. Okay, so you'll be the first one. Okay. Is that can you wait a little bit or do you want to go now?
I can wait, but how do I put it in there?
Okay, I'll show you. I'll share my screen. I'll let you share your screen. But we'll actually let's do it now. You raised your hand. You're ready. So you should be able to in Zoom share your screen. I've given the ability to. And then as you share it, tell us what your challenges are, what your goal is for this pitch deck and what you're looking for help on.
Well, I'm currently raising funds
Okay.
for a documentary movie I'm making,
Okay.
and I want to raise funds and create awareness as well.
Raise funds and generate awareness about your project.
Right.
Great. Okay. You've defined your goal, which is fantastic. Now, I mentioned this earlier. To me, the main goal of a pitch, of a meeting, is to develop a relationship that will eventually end with what you said. Okay. Just want to be clear about that. Okay. So what about your pitch deck are you struggling with or do you want input on?
Well, based on everything you share, I want to make sure how effective it is what I have so far.
Okay.
And see what can I update and what can I
Sure.
You know,
Improve.
change, but just
Sure.
let me just
Yeah. Why don't you work on putting it on the screen if you can, if that's possible, because I'd love to take a look at it. Otherwise, I'm happy to have you send it afterwards. And that's an invitation for all of you. I'm happy to take the time to look at what you have. I've never been deluged. If someone's motivated enough to look for help, I'm motivated to give it. So why don't you work on that? I'm going to say a few words about delivery and also how to practice. And then after I'm done, we'll have you share your deck if you're able to. Is that okay?
Yes, that's okay.
Excellent. Okay. So delivery. The most important thing in a conversation between two humans is to be human. That is to say, there is no one way to present. People in the olden days thought you had to use certain gestures, or they used to think you had to talk like this. We are in an environment where we're craving human connection. And so the more genuine and authentic and real you can be, the better. Being yourself in a situation that is high stress is not always easy. And instead of trying to be someone that you're not, do your best to try to be yourself. And in doing that, the best way to practice is to listen to yourself. And that's either recording yourself or talking with somebody. And when I say talking, I mean talking, not presenting. Now, obviously, there are things that you need to communicate. And I've already listed a bunch, and that's a lot. but you need to do your best to talk to them and not recite them or speak to them. The more that you can involve somebody and give the impression that, you know, I was going to give you my sales pitch, but I'm just going to tell you what it is. I'm going to break it down for you. Just super simple. Here's what you need to know. This. That sense of having someone tell us what the meaning is what we all crave. I believe that Netflix's value is not just their millions of movies and TV shows, but the fact that they're able to suggest something. Now, their algorithm's not great, but at the same time, I open it up and they say, hey, you might like this, you might like this. And so if you can do that, if you can tell someone like, hey, you know, I'm here for you and I'd like to help you however I can, they're going to like that. So from a delivery standpoint, the goal is conversation. The goal is talking with a friend, not too casual, but there's a phrase that we use when preparing for a judge's argument, and that is a stimulating dialogue between colleagues. So you want to create this conversation and avoid being too forceful or fake or anything. And that's hard to do with nerves. And we can talk about specifics. If anyone has challenges with nerves, there's many techniques, and a lot of them have to do with breathing, and it all comes down to breathing. So I've kind of touched on the core philosophy with delivery, and I can talk more about that if someone has specific concerns. And I've talked a little bit about delivery practice for that. And in fact, if anyone's interested, I will also send you an invite to a platform that we use for people to practice their pitches. And it's an AI platform. What isn't these days? But seriously, it allows you to record your presentation, and it will give you feedback on how you presented, how many ums and ahs, how your voice sounded, how fast you spoke. And it even has the ability to generate questions based on what you said, which is really valuable. So if anybody would like an invitation to that, just simply email me through this in the chat. Yes, I see that. I'm happy to follow up with you. Or you want me to take a look at your deck. I'm happy to do that. And then this platform, it's through SpeakerBeaker, and it's a white label tool. We're not the AI people, but you can share it with me and say, hey, Chris, I'm having trouble saying every other word. Can you help me? And I'm happy to, and I'm happy to do what I can. So Kelly and is it Kiwana and Gregory? Yes, and yes, I will. Okay, I guess emails like voicemail. It's like phone calls. Nobody takes phone calls. It's chat now. Okay, so Nurka, sorry, I'm trying so hard to say your name again for me, please. It's finding, and then the other challenge of modern life, finding the unmute. Go ahead.
Niorka.
Say it again.
It's Niorka.
Niorka. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Good. Can you share your deck on the screen? Have you figured that out?
Yes, and I'm trying to add it to the screen right now.
Okay.
Let me
So as she gets this, go ahead. As she gets this up, I want to reiterate, she's looking to raise money for a film, and she's generating awareness for the film. That second goal is really smart, because if you were looking just to generate money for the film, you have to be careful, because it's probably not, you're not going to generate money every time you meet with someone. However, you are probably going to generate awareness every time you meet. It's something that happened to me early on in my acting career, is that if you go audition and the goal is to get the part, you're going to be disappointed a lot. But if the goal is to perform in front of these people and to start a relationship with them, you have a potential to succeed every single time. Now that is fantastic. There was a great Isra Elba quote, and he said something similar to that. And instead of alluding to it, I should probably repeat it. But anyway, so so whenever you're ready, you go ahead and put your pitch deck on. And if anyone else has a question or they would like to show something, we can certainly work on that too, because there's some technical challenges that we might have to overcome. Does anyone else, as you work on that, Nurka, does anyone else, here, I'm looking. Oh, yeah. So we'll share in a recap email. Yes, that's fantastic. Thank you, Alexis. I'm going to just go through the chat. I see people who would like the AI coach. That's fantastic. Tip to share. Try to be conscious of all those ums and ahs. Yes, be authentic, but don't forget to give off professionalism in your own authenticity. Okay, Targan, thank you, and you're still here. I want to speak to this. This comes up a lot. I agree with your point. Okay, first and foremost, I agree with your point. Let me also adjust expectations, not only as if you struggle with this, let me share with you that I've, again, done the math, read the studies. Everyday conversation has about 10% what we call disfluencies, ums, ahs, repetitions. Now, you do want to make this a conversation, but you want to not make it a casual conversation that's too informal. So professionalism is key. You want to demonstrate that you're prepared. You don't want you don't want to seem like you don't know what you're talking about, because it stresses people out. You're probably stressed right there, like, oh my God, he's having a stroke. Okay, you don't want to do that. But understand that some ums and ahs are okay. And in fact, the tool is really helpful because over 10% can hit our ear differently. Under 10%, in other words, the effort it would take for it to go from 10% to 0, I don't know if it's worth it. And I'll also offer up the example of Jeff Goldblum, who's one of my favorite actors. And if you ever saw the movie Jurassic Park, it's about the dinosaurs. He has a very famous line. And it's along the lines of life finds a way. And that's where he basically encapsulates the entire movie trilogy series. And he does something that's very effective as an actor. And I've read about this, that it actually can emphasize an idea more than detract from it. And that is, he used a disfluency to create tension. At a certain point, he says, life finds a way. And there's a point that he's making through his performance, is that sometimes disfluencies can alert people, oops, something is interesting. If I said that, I think that your pitch is interesting. I mean, you're like, wait, what is it? What is he going to say? I'm not saying that you should artificially insert those, but I am saying that ums and ahs can play a role in generating authenticity and also meaning or suspense. So, Target, sorry, agree with your point. Definitely watch those, because you don't want to appear that you're unsure or unprofessional, and that AI can certainly help you. Oh yes, not only do we have the deck, but we have you in front of it. I'm impressed. So, okay, so this is great. So why don't you, I don't think we have time to go through all of it, but why don't you show me some of it and some things that you're particularly concerned about or want some input on. Okay, can we stop here? I was just telling you what we could do, and then I seized control, so I'm sorry. So this is first of all, it looks great. The graphics look nice. And as a filmmaker or as somebody trying to make a film, you need to have quite a polished look. And so that's great. I do want to tell you, this is a great format for a send ahead, okay, or a leave behind. What I mean by that is, hey, I'm looking forward to our meeting next week, and here's some more about the project. That's a perfectly legitimate way to conduct something. I respect our time. I want you to take a look at this, and so you'll know. Or you said, thank you so much for the meeting. I didn't have a chance. Here's some more about our film. Now, if you were to show this while you were presenting, there are a lot of words, and it would be very difficult for the audience member. I mean, right now, granted, there's a lot going on my screen. I can't even read it's too small. And then if you count the words, I bet you 50, 60, could be close to 80 words there. People are going to be reading. It looks beautiful, And it looks, actually, I'm just reading a teeny bit of it, it looks very well written. But what happens is when you're presenting, words, specifically sentences, become your enemy for attention. So if you had to, if you really like, sometimes with a quote, people will put a quote up there. You can read that, or you can tell them, take a look at this quote. That's okay. But if you read something else that's not a quote, or if you're trying to talk while they're reading, it's going to create tension. So great for a send ahead or a leave behind, difficult for a presentation deck. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Is there another part, or okay, this is so there's something in film, and I think this is almost like a lookbook, or this is like a mood book. Yeah. So this is a particular thing. This is a very fascinating thing to pop up in a procurement readiness. Good for you. They're very effective. This is what the goal of the film is. This is what the feel. So usually in these, they show things that will give you a feel of what this picture could be like. It's very effective. If you're going to present with this, be very careful, because they're going to read this. I would recommend creating a pitch deck using this as the basis and taking out little teeny things, or even just images that you can then contribute to. So that's my overall feedback from my 35 seconds of viewing it. Do you have questions? You haven't even asked one. Are there any questions that you're looking for input on?
So, your recommendation is to make it shorter, like one word, how many sentences for?
Fair
Right.
question. Fair question. This is a variation on something I get all the time. How long should a pitch deck be? And I answer kind of jerky. How long is a piece of rope? How much is a house? How much is a car? In general, one slide per idea, usually 1 minute per slide. And you need to have one idea that needs to be at the top. For example, right here, if this were a presentation deck, she has log line. That doesn't really give the audience much information. So tell us what the log line is. So that would be, so for example, in a presentation deck, I would take the sentence or two that summarize the log line and put it at the top. And then you have 3 to 5 supporting points, and that should be it. So it's an incredibly sparse, it should almost not make sense by itself. In contrast to a deck like this, where I understand everything, a presentation deck should only make sense when it's presented. Okay, so it should be very, very, very short. So I hope that, so there we go. So, okay, now we're getting, these are potential great slides, very impactful. You're getting close to it here, yeah. And in fact, the other one, the one right below, I think slide 12, that's the kind of level of punchiness that you need.
So more like those.
Yep. And in fact, you could really, this is a slide you could really speak to. In fact, this could be the very engaging. Let's go back to the framework that I said. If you were to use that, so slide 12 could be the opening slide for an agreement. At various points in our life, we've all faced moments of crises or things that are tough to deal with. We might have lost a loved one, or we might have had, and just getting their heads down. And wouldn't it be great if there was some way of connecting with others in that community, or connecting with that feeling, or knowing that you weren't alone. And so they're looking like this. Well, this movie does this, and you go through it like that. Does that make sense? Okay, Alexis, you asked a really good question too. But does this make sense, what I'm saying?
Yes. So
Okay.
make it shorter, make it more impactful.
For presentation, yes. I think it's a beautiful deck. I can't remember what they call them. What do they call them? Anyways.
Yeah, like a storybook, logbook.
Yeah. Logbook. Yeah, I think it's great. So if you want to brainstorm ideas for what a deck might look like, that's a presentation deck, I'm happy to follow up with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to do that. All
Appreciate
right. So how might the deck change based on your audience? So every pitch should be tailored to its audience. Having said that, yes, applause for volunteering. I think that's what you're doing, Jason. And thank you. I appreciate that. Every pitch should be customized to its audience, but that doesn't mean that the core message really changes, because if you have a unique value proposition, it should resonate with your target market, right? And so you do need, in that opening agreement stage, that should speak to your audience. Now, the more universal your appeal, the less it has to change. You know, if you want to cure cancer, you can say, wouldn't it be great if there was no more cancer? I mean, you really don't have to change that unless it was people who were against cancer. I don't know. But you want to tailor. You don't want to make it too specific, because then you might miss the mark. But the deck itself should largely remain the same. You shouldn't reinvent the wheel every time. And if the deck has only a handful of images or ideas, then you can always change what you're saying to supplement and customize it. Does that make sense? Excellent. All right. I'm looking for other questions. Please take yourself off mute or drop them in the chat if you'd like to. We've got about 9 minutes left, and I want to make sure that you leave this with some value. And if I can answer something right now, I'm happy to. Relationships, yep, definitely. Okay, good. Oh, here's a good, so target. It's all about a beautiful presentation, but also captures. Don't make it a crutch. Wow, Target, you're gunning for my job. That's exactly it. Target says it's all about a beautiful presentation, but don't make it a crutch. And it's what I was trying to say earlier. Hopefully, I said it after you said that, or vice versa. I don't know. The presentation should highlight you. That's its only role. Now, in Yurka's case, you might send it ahead, and then it's your proxy. Then it's actually you, okay? When you said something ahead, just like, remember when people used to write cover letters and they would have nice paper and they're holding it? That's oh wow, this person really cares. But when you're presenting, that presentation needs to highlight and reflect you. I made a conscious decision, believe it or not to have PowerPoint for this presentation, because I wanted to highlight your work. Okay. I also, the cobbler's son has no shoes. And so I really struggle with spending the adequate amount of time that I need to, but not to say that I shouldn't. So I have 2 new messages. What are they? Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no, I appreciate your sharing. It is hard to share. One of the things that I do quite a bit of is group coaching, facilitated feedback. And it takes someone brave like Nirka to kick that off. But it's always important because we see what's real and relevant. There's got to be someone out there who has a specific procurement question. I'm dying to learn more about some of the ins and outs. Somebody there was asking about GovCon. I'm going to volunteer someone. Gregory, you're getting ready for investors in GovCon.
Yes, that's correct.
There you are. Thank you for taking yourself off mute, and I appreciate your being voluntold. Help me understand some of the challenges that you're having with reaching out to investors.
Primarily, the biggest one is being able to minimize the information, because when I review a solicitation, there's so much information.
Yeah.
I'm trying to identify who the investors should be, or the stakeholders should be. And I have access to certain databases, but I have to narrow it down so I can get to the one to spend the time with them to build the relationship.
Excellent. Okay. Excellent. Not that you have those problems. I'm sorry. I really appreciate what you're saying, because it brings quite a few things that I think are important for everyone to understand. First, every single person who's introduced to any idea has to answer 3 questions right away. What is it? Your idea. What is your idea? What is your service? How is it different, and why does it matter? So Gregory, as you're going into the market, Your job is to take all that information that you have about your value proposition, your business model, and to let people know that you're going to meet. What is it that you have to sell or do? So let me ask, is it a product or a service, Gregory?
It's a product.
It's a product. Excellent. And do you go by Gregory or Greg?
I go by Gregory.
Excellent. Glad I said it. It's a product. So first of all, right there, like, what are we talking about? What's the product? How is it different from any other product like it? And why does it matter? That's the core of your one sentence elevator pitch. Now, to flip it around to the other thing I heard you say is, you've got all these potential people as investors. You've got to find their pain point. You've got to find what they're looking for. And each individual investor is unique, but at the same time, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of imagination that people want a return on their money. They want to invest it in somebody who will take good care of it, potential high return. Fundamentally, they want to work with good people. So to demonstrate either that you have a good mission or that you yourself are someone that they either like or trust, that's the fantastic building block that you can base things off. Now,
And
the
that's
trick
actually
is,
the that
go
I'm
ahead.
having a trouble with. I'm really focusing on investors that want to make a economic impact back to communities.
Yeah,
So it's not just any investors that I'm looking for.
excellent. So it is not just any investor that you're looking for. You're looking for those that are going to make an economic impact. Is that right?
Yes.
Excellent. So, so the best way to do that is to talk to them, but that's largely inefficient, right? That's something that you don't have a lot of bandwidth to do. However, whenever you get a networking opportunity, whenever you get, you need to have your one sentence pitch down cold, so that when you have an opportunity to talk to them and you ask them what are they looking for, you're able to jump on that. Then before that, it's largely a data model challenge. It is something that is you're going to have to figure out different groups. It's something that I don't have a tremendous amount of expertise at, but you're going to have to figure out a way to get those conversations going. Does that make sense?
It does, and I do appreciate the emphasis on the elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Being down. I've been working on that. I also been working on trying to identify personas to narrow it down as much as I can.
Great. Two great things. So would you feel comfortable sharing your elevator pitch?
I'm still working on it.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
That is a challenge for me.
So I will share with you, AI has large language models, more accurately, have promised to save the world, which they may or may not do, or make us all slaves or servants or whatever. But I will say, as large language models, ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude and all those, they're very good for testing out elevator pitches. You can do it a number of ways. You could type something in, or actually with ChatGPT, you could talk to it. And then you could say, help me improve that for clarity and concision, or, and then telling them more about your target market. That's a really great, bouncing it off of someone, whether it's a robot or somebody, is a very great way to practice. And then also, in my experience, they're also good at generating personas. What is this person like? What do they don't like? So the two things that you're working on are very, very smart. And I would say that in your elevator pitch, you need to answer what it is, what's your product, how is it different, why does it matter? And it needs to be something that, if you remember my delivery tips, need to be delivered authentically, genuinely. So you have to memorize it, but you have to say it in a way that doesn't sound memorized. I know I contradicted myself, but that's the art, the balance between those two things. So good luck. You're welcome. Okay, so kind of fun. It seems that we have more time than I thought. So that's a joy. So does anyone else have some projects that they would like to get some feedback on from the group and from me? Or are there specific topics that I've touched on or that you would like me to talk more about or expand upon? So I'm gonna let a couple seconds of awkward silence go by so that somebody will feel like they have to fill it with a question, because then I know that it's relevant to that person. So here we go. Who has a question? And I'll be watching the chat. Oh, Kelly took herself off mute. Thank you, Kelly.
I was going to offer to do my elevator pitch and see
Yes.
what people think about it.
Excellent. So Kelly, thank you very much in advance for your bravery and your commitment. Why don't you, before you give your elevator pitch, I think it's necessary, and this is something that that I think we've touched on, and that is, who is your core audience so that we can listen to it with those ears? So who are you find yourself pitching to?
I would be pitching to government agencies, talent and development, or workforce development professionals.
Got it.
So like
People-
HR type people that do the hiring of senior executives.
Got it. Got it. Somebody who, okay, so tell me a little bit about what makes their life harder or easier, just briefly.
What makes their life harder is, so the senior executive service, for people that are not familiar, it is an elite rank in the federal government.
Okay.
And it is different than applying for a regular GS type position. There's special requirements and qualifications that you have to meet, and they're called executive core qualifications. And you have to take all of your accomplishments in the last 10 years and put them into these ECQs to be rated and evaluated and approved by OPM. And that is trickier than it sounds for people when you have to write them a certain way.
Yeah. Wow. Got it. You know your audience. So that's fantastic. Okay. So now, why don't you share with us your elevator pitch? So pretend, I'm not going to do intensive role playing here, but I'm one of the people you just described. There was a lot of detail in there. And you're talking to me in some type of, let's say this is a virtual meeting. That makes sense. A lot of the meetings are virtual. Okay. And let's assume that we've said, how are you? Good. Where are you from? Oh, I'm in Minneapolis. Okay. Weather's nice. That's really an important part of the initial meeting. Okay. And I don't want to de-emphasize that. That's rapport building.
Mm-hmm.
And if you come across as, like, if you jump right to your elevator, you know, hello, my name's Chris, you know, that would be very abrupt, and few people do that. But just to set the stage, and at some point, there'll come a point where either you decide or they'll say, so Kelly, tell me a little bit about your business. And so at that point, you would say something like,
You want me to go ahead and start?
yeah.
All
If
right.
you want, if that's okay.
So again, I'm Kelly Foster, the founder and CEO of Motivated by Kelly, where executives thrive and their admins shine. My business equips aspiring senior leaders to attain the prestigious senior executive service rank by providing targeted training, personalized coaching, and expert writing services that sharpen their competitive edge in the rigorous selection process. With a deep understanding of the federal government's expectations and proven coaching strategies, Motivated by Kelly provides a unique and highly sought after service for federal agencies and individuals aiming for senior executive service positions. In tandem, I am committed to shaping the future workforce through training and mentoring administrative assistants, ensuring they effectively support their senior executives and contribute to organizational success.
Excellent. How did that feel?
It felt good. So in my first sentence, if you heard where I said where executives thrive and their admins shine, that is where the in tandem piece comes in, because my passion is really in developing the administrative assistants for the future, because that's my background.
Okay.
But the money, if you will, is in the senior executive portion.
Got it.
So that's what I'm going after. And then what I will do is quarterly, I will offer free workshops for senior executives, admins to develop and train them.
Excellent. Okay. So a couple things. So how did, when you delivered that, how did that feel? Did you feel like, oh, that went like a lot better than normal, or that was a lot worse, or was about the same, or how did you feel as you were doing it?
I'll say still a little nervous. I
Okay.
have a pitch to give in November, so
Okay.
I'm just rewriting, retweaking everything.
Got it.
So I haven't done it from memory yet.
Got it. Got it. So is that to say that you felt yourself reading it?
Oh, I was definitely reading it.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Good to know. Anything else about it? Things that you thought went well or didn't go well?
I probably could have paused a little bit. Maybe spoke a little slower.
Okay. Anything else?
Should I conclude that because you asked me that there is something else that I'm missing?
No. No.
Okay.
One of the things that I always try to do is check in how you felt, to see how the feedback can then be put into context. If you said that was the best I ever did, I'm gonna say, ooh, okay, well, there are a couple things that you might want to consider. And if you said, oh, that was the worst ever, I feel sick and I'm really nervous, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I heard that. So that's why I'm saying it. And so
Gotcha.
it's really important. So that's why I'm asking. No, I wasn't
Gotcha.
trying to read you at all.
Okay, no.
So what I would like to do, if someone would be so kind, I would like a volunteer. And if I don't get one, I'm gonna volunteer Alexis. So can I have a volunteer? And it's super easy. It's one question. So Alexis, I think you might be up. Okay, ready? You ready, Alexis? You gotta take yourself off mute. Okay.
I'm ready.
Ready? Tell me what Kelly does.
I have to admit I was multitasking, Kelly, and I'm so
Okay. I apologize for putting the person who's in charge of maintaining all the chats and everything on the spot. Who can volunteer to summarize what Kelly said? Here's what I'm getting at. I'm sorry, Alexis. Here's what I'm getting at. This is an exercise. This is a way to test your elevator pitch. Tell it to people, friends, colleagues, your mom, your husband, even your kids, and then have them repeat it back. And what you're going to find are, oh, wow, that was really interesting that person caught that, but they didn't catch this. So that's going to be a way that you can refine the pitch. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's okay. I put you on the spot, Alexis. She's got so many things going. We're going back and forth about when ending and all kinds of things. Please don't take that as she was so bored she dozed off. That's not the point. So
not it at all. I remember Kelly
not
talking about who she's talking to, and sometimes that's the C-level HR or
right.
Those folks. So okay. Sorry, Kelly.
No, it's fine. So one of the great benefits of large language models and AI is that you don't have to co-opt a friend. You could say, hey, so this is my elevator pitch. How can I make it? These are the three things you're going to always want to do. Make it clear, make it concise, make it compelling. So it clearly has to say there's layers of three things. I'm a big fan of the rule of three. It clearly has to say what you do, how it's different, why it matters. Okay, those three things have to be in there. And you need to do that clearly, concisely, and in a way that's compelling. The compelling needs to be conversational and natural. And so let me just go backwards from what you said. You read that to me. If we were in a meeting and that was your elevator pitch, it would be a little odd because you're saying this is what I do, but it was clear that you were reading it. And so the impression is you're not quite sure what you do, or you're nervous. Now, it's okay to be nervous, but at the same time, we're less likely to really bond with somebody who has a great deal of nerves, because very honestly, I might think it's my fault. Or, it's like, oh, wow, she doesn't like me. Or, oh, there's something, we're not clicking. So you really, from a delivery standpoint, and you said that right away, you said, I need to learn this better. You need to say it in your own words. And it absolutely 100% has to be from the heart, not memorized, in a sense that it sounds like you're repeating the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to, did anyone used to do that? We used to, anyway. So good job on the delivery. In other words, you're planning for it. Second, it's a little long. So I would be happy to work with you on this, but so would ChatGPT. And I think it's an invaluable way to keep looking at different ways to make it more concise. And in fact, as we're sitting here, I just transcribed it. And let's see what they say. Oh, I do, before I go into this, your name. So you started your pitch with your name. People do this a lot. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but there are some pros and cons. In the beginning of any presentation, specifically an elevator pitch, it's the most important part of the whole pitch, because I'm really like, if I say, what do you do? I'm waiting for it, right? It is highly unlikely that someone doesn't know your name. It's highly unlikely that that hasn't come up. And so from my experience, it isn't the best use of those precious seconds to restate your name or to actually tell you your name in general. There is a role for it if that's the first thing. Hi, how are you? I'm Chris. That's fine. But as part of your elevator pitch, remember, these are the three things I want to know. What do you got? How's it different? Why does it matter? Okay. And here's what ChatGPT said. And I'm just telling ChatGPT not to say her name. Let's see what it says here. And it's interesting. And it's a tool, so you don't take it. But here's what it says. We help senior leaders achieve the Senior Executive Series, SES rank, through targeted training, coaching, and expert writing services. With a deep understanding of federal expectations, we provide a competitive edge. We also monitor administrative assistants to ensure they effectively support their executives. Let's talk about how we can help your team thrive. So that's good. I want it one sentence, because an elevator pitch should be one sentence. There's a lot of great detail in there. The goal of an elevator pitch is not comprehensiveness, but it's teasing interest. It's developing the relationship. There's a great story, at least I think it's great. It's funny. There was a company in town here, their elevator pitch, when they said, what do you do? He said, his answer was, we build bridges of love. What? Yeah. We build bridges of love. What do you mean? Immediately, what do you mean bridges of love? Well, we connect your loved ones to make sure that they're safe and secure through an automated thermostat system. Those for heating. But the point was, it was provocative and allowed the conversation to go on. I'm not a big fan of provocation, but at the same time, it was an interesting way to go about it. So you just have to get their interest and get the core. What is it that you do? So we help senior leaders achieve the senior executive. So what are you? So are you a staffing service? So you might want to say that right away. And then how are you different? Well, we're the best in our field because of this. And then what's the why? Simon Sinek, do it in one sentence. Answer what it is, how it's different, and why it matters. And let's see what they come up with. Not to say that this is the only tool, but I mean, we could brainstorm it for a while. And it says here, we help senior leaders and their administrative assistants excel by providing targeted SES training, coaching, and writing services that stand out through deep federal expertise, giving them a competitive edge in achieving organizational success. Good, but for a spoken elevator pitch, I would like to see it more concise. And in fact, let's see if we were to push it. We help senior leaders and their admins succeed through specialized SEH coaching, writing services that leverage federal expertise. So, I mean, this exercise of getting it down allows you to have something that you can repeat back right away and then refer to as you go throughout. Is all of this making sense? Okay. Do you have any questions or concerns after being a wonderful, wonderful volunteer? No? Okay, you're on mute, but I saw you smiling, and so I assume it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no, I was just looking at my text and how I was going to trim it down.
Yeah, yeah. And so I would say one sentence is ambitious. I'll be, but if you could do it in one sentence, that's fantastic. But it needs to cover those core characteristics, and you need to do it in a way that sounds genuine, sounds authentic. So, for example, if I were to ask you, what do you consider your service to be? Is it a staffing solution?
No, it's training.
So it's training. So we train. So we're a training service. So you might want to say that right at the beginning. You even as an exercise, we're a training service, and we're different because. And why are you different? Why are you unique? Putting you on the spot.
Well, the one thing that I bring to it is 38 years of experience in the
Perfect.
federal government
Perfect.
and directly working with senior executives.
Great. So I would pick one of those, and I think 38 years, brilliant. We're a training service with 38 years of experience in the federal government space. And then what's the why? What's the big, how do you make the world a better place? How do you make that person's life better? We go ahead.
Well, we equip them with the training.
Yep.
Equip them with the training so that they can transform their career accomplishments into executive core qualifications, positioning them as a viable candidate for the senior executive service.
Good, good. Every time you go through that, here's another great exercise. Say what you just said and don't use any of those words. Just try it. Just try it.
Don't use anything I just said.
Don't use any of the words. Communicate the same idea. So in other words, what is, why?
Actually,
How do you-
my doctor's calling. Can I take this? I'm sorry. I've been waiting
It's
for
okay.
so stand by.
I think
Life stops for nothing.
that's right. That's right. And I was afraid that I was pushing her too hard. Sometimes these are tough. Elevator pitches are easily the most difficult things to come up with. Does anyone else have any questions? I want to make sure that I give you as much relevant input, but I also understand that you might not know what you don't know. So don't feel bad about that. And I'm happy to follow up with people if they have specific concerns or if they'd like me to look at things. So what we can do, so yeah, I have to apologize. I had 60 minutes tight planned for this, and I have the delightful surprise, or reminder rather, that we have 10 more minutes. And so I do want to fill this up if somebody would like to take advantage of it. Otherwise, I am happy to give you 10 minutes back or so, but I don't want to cut it short if someone has something that I can add more value to. And what I can do is I'm going to do a protracted summary. I'm going to take my time with my conclusion and reiterate some of the points that I went over. And in that time, someone might have a particular question or challenge that they want to offer. And who knows, Kelly might have resolved things with their doctor, but that's fine. We're all friends here, aren't we?
I have a question.
Excellent.
This is Gregory. So, in preparation for pitch deck
Yes,
or
sir.
because you have such a diverse audience, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't necessarily know them to do any
Yep.
research prior to. So how do you gauge what's the best target for your pitch deck when you're going in?
Yeah.
If I pitch on what I know, I'm
Yep.
good because I know it.
Correct. Correct. Okay. So by the fact that you're even asking this question, you're ahead of the game. You're wanting to connect with the people that you're across from. The short answer is to ask questions. Now, you might be asking a larger question is like, how do you get into the room with the right people? And that's beyond my expertise to a degree. But the best way to adapt your presentation for your audience is to talk with them and to have a conversation. And people love to talk about themselves. And in fact, that's one of the greatest rapport building techniques is to say, before we begin here, just do you mind telling me a little bit about what keeps you up at night? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Or before I begin today, in preparation for a meeting, I was wondering if you could list some of your biggest challenges. Focusing on pain points is always a very, very effective way for you to frame your value. So if someone says, Gregory, man, I tell you, if I spend one more nickel on procurement that doesn't come in on time, I'm going to lose my job. So all I need is someone on time. And so then you're able to speak to the timeliness that you can bring to it. Everything is about the audience. And in an ideal world, every pitch should begin with that connection, that audience investing in your pitch. And in fact, I'll share something with you that's pretty interesting to me, at least. Well, and it goes to communication. The scientists measure thinking. I don't know how they did this, but we think at the rate of about 800 to 1,000 words a minute. We can think really fast, which makes sense. We speak at a much slower rate because the thoughts have to go through the mouth. 200 to 300 words a minute, around 200 words a minute. So if you do the math, there's always going to be a gap when someone's listening to you. They're listening and taking in the information 200 words a minute, and they're running circles around you with their brain at 600, 800 words a minute, at a 600 word gap. So that means that your attention, if you're an audience member, can wane, can go to different places, right? But when you're talking, that gap disappears. When your audience is talking, they're thinking about what they're saying. And if you can get them talking, you can eliminate a lot of their distractedness. Very, very few people will lose their focus or train of thought when they're talking to you because they're talking about themselves. So any opportunity you can get for your target market to talk about themselves, the better. Which begs a larger question, which is probably what you were really asking, and that is, how do you prepare when you don't know what they're going to talk about? That's where you really need to educate yourself about the general problems in the industry so that you can recognize some of them and be prepared, do some background research. But most importantly, your unique value proposition has to solve some type of problem that is shared by some common group of people, the target market, right? So it needs to be universal, and hopefully you're talking to a person in that market. So no matter what, you should be able to talk to that person. And even more broadly, everybody wants to save time. Everybody wants to save money. Everybody wants to save energy, effort. So if you can always tag your value proposition to one of those, it's going to be universal.
I agree.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and actually, if you don't mind, Gregory, could you expand a little bit on your the note you left in the chat?
Which note was that?
You said, oh no, that wasn't you. That was Target. Oh, tip for Gregory. This is a tip that he does. Yeah.
I was going to ask you about that too. I wasn't quite sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. Yeah, it's interesting. If he was on, I'd like to talk about that. So you want to validate every assumption that you have. Okay. You know, the whole assume, make an ask, you know, so on and so forth. And the best way to do that is to have a conversation. Even if you assume something about like, oh, okay, so your procurement. So my understanding is that time is a big issue for you. Is that right? In other words, if you're deferential, if you're respectful and prepared, that's going to create this relationship where it's like, wow, I really like this guy. He's thinking of me. He's done his homework. So those kinds of things are always important. If you come in there telling somebody, hi, Gregory, thanks for meeting. I know you and I know your problems. You want this and you don't want this. I mean, I'd be like, whoa, hey, buddy, I might want that, but I don't like how you're talking to me. You want to make them the hero. That's one of the things in Donald Miller. All his stuff is the audience is the hero. You are not Luke Skywalker. The audience is. You are Yoda. You are the small little green guy who's enormously powerful, but it only adds value to help the audience. And so if you can continue to do everything in that vein, you're going to be more successful than not. So that's what I take his point as. He seemed to have other good points too. I assume it's a he. But
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome, Gregory. Thank you for the questions. I appreciate it. Okay. See how I can take that time and just. Oh, yeah, maybe. Alexis? Probably
Great
can't.
question, Gregory. Yes, you all will have access to these previous sessions. And while I say that, I'm going to go ahead and pop a few things into the chat as we are closing out. So Gregory asked, will we have access to the previous 2 sessions that we hosted as part of this procurement readiness series from IVMF in partnership with Walmart? And yes, you will. We are working on developing a really great and robust online resource library for you all so that you can access sessions like this one and others that we've hosted around supply chain management, how to create a winning first impression with your brand. Next week, we're actually hosting a panel discussion with veteran entrepreneurs who have had success in private sector procurement, and you'll get to hear directly from them on kind of their tips, lessons learned, what they wish they would have known as they were preparing to enter into this space. And all of those will be made available on a procurement readiness landing page that should go live here in the next week or so. So stay tuned for that. One of the links that I popped in the chat is a place where you can basically enter in your email and let us know that, hey, I want to stay in the loop on all these new resources, events, things that are coming out. That'll be the best place to get access to those additional videos. Also, the other link is for that upcoming panel discussion on the 17th that I mentioned. If you haven't already registered for that, please do. If you register, and even if you aren't able to actually attend that event in person or live with us virtually, I will send anyone who's registered for that event, just like this one, I will send you the recording of the workshop before we even post it up on the website. So you'll get a raw recording of that. So I hope that's helpful, Gregory. I hope that also answers your question. Otherwise, thank you, Chris, for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for logging on and participating in the discussion. As Chris mentioned, he has generously volunteered some additional time to review your pitches, your pitch decks, and provide some feedback on those. So again, in kind of the recap email, I can send you information on that. Or Chris, if you want to pop in your contact in the chat right now, that'd be fine too. So yeah, I think that's it for today. Like I said, let us know if you want to stay in the loop on everything procurement readiness for the private sector as we build out that resource library. And don't forget to register for next week so that you can participate in that discussion, or at least get that recording sent straight to your inbox. All right.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day and a great week.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.